Zalara stood atop a ridge, her sharp eyes scanning the alien wilderness below. The air was thick with the scent of wild flora, mingling with the faint metallic tang of nearby mineral deposits. The twin suns overhead cast a fierce orange glow across the rugged terrain. This world was untamed, dangerous, just the kind of place a true huntress thrived. Her armor gleamed, sleek and reinforced, tailored for mobility and strength. A plasma spear hummed softly in her grip. She was Zalara of the Verith, a name that inspired both reverence and fear across countless star systems. Her kind lived by one simple creed: hunt or be hunted. Yet as seasoned as she was, this hunt was different. Her target wasn't a mere beast or rival warrior. No, this prey was something far more elusive, almost mythical. Whispers had reached her people of strange encounters on this world, signs of a creature cunning enough to evade capture and bold enough to leave taunting markers behind. Some claimed it was a relic species, one thought to be long extinct. The ancient tales spoke of beings called humans, creatures that existed only in legend. To Zalara, they were nothing more than fables told to entertain the young or scare them into obedience. Humans were said to be adaptable, unpredictable, and clever beyond measure, but surely they were just fantasy. Still, curiosity gnawed at her. The hunt was in her blood, and if there was even a shred of truth to these stories, she wanted to be the one to prove it. Her pride demanded nothing less. As she descended from the ridge, her boots barely made a sound on the rocky ground. The landscape shifted from jagged stone formations to dense foliage. The trees loomed tall, their bark shimmering with bioluminescent veins. Shadows danced in the dim light, masking potential threats. Her visor flickered, detecting faint energy signatures ahead. They were erratic, almost as if someone or something was deliberately scrambling their trail. A hunter's tactic. Interesting. Zalara moved swiftly, her senses heightened. The wind shifted, carrying a scent that was foreign yet oddly familiar. Her muscles tensed. She wasn't alone. A sudden rustle to her right made her spin, spear raised. But there was nothing there, only the whispering leaves. Her heart raced, not from fear but exhilaration. This was a worthy challenge. She pressed on, following the trail deeper into the wilderness. The air grew thicker, charged with tension. Her species prided themselves on being the galaxy's apex predators, but Zalara couldn't shake the feeling that she was no longer the hunter here. No, something was watching her, studying her just as she sought to study it. And for the first time in her life, Zalara felt a thrill that went beyond the hunt. It was the thrill of facing the unknown. If the ancient stories were true, and humans did exist, she would find out soon enough. And when she did, she would either claim victory or learn the hard way why they were called legends. Zalara moved silently through the dense forest, her every sense attuned to the hunt. The trail was faint but unmistakable: broken branches, subtle disturbances in the soil, and faint energy fluctuations that danced just beyond her scanner's capacity. This prey was clever, far more so than any creature she had tracked before. She paused near a glimmering pool, its surface rippling under a faint breeze. Her visor scanned the area, highlighting potential threats. Still, there was nothing definitive, just an eerie silence that clung to the air. The usual forest sounds had vanished, replaced by an oppressive stillness. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath. Then she saw it, a simple but deliberate marker carved into the bark of a tree. 3 clean, intersecting lines, sharp and precise. The mark was alien to her but unmistakably intentional. Her heart quickened. Whoever or whatever left this was not just trying to survive. They were sending a message. Zalara's grip tightened on her spear. A hunter's instinct told her that she was no longer the predator. Her prey was aware of her presence and was actively leading her deeper into unfamiliar territory. The realization only fueled her determination. No challenge was too great for a Verith huntress. She moved cautiously, her every step calculated. The forest thickened, the trees twisting into unnatural shapes. The air grew damp, the ground softer beneath her boots. Strange flora pulsed with bioluminescence, casting an otherworldly glow across the landscape. Suddenly, a blur of motion to her left. Zalara spun, spear at the ready, but whatever it was had already vanished into the shadows. Her pulse quickened. This was no beast, it moved with too much precision, too much intent. A faint sound echoed through the trees, a rhythmic tapping, almost like footsteps. Human footsteps, perhaps? Her mind rejected the idea, but her instincts screamed otherwise. She pressed forward, following the sound. The tapping grew louder, then abruptly stopped. The forest fell silent once more. Zalara's breathing steadied as she scanned the area, her muscles coiled and ready to strike. Out of nowhere, a figure dropped from the trees, landing with impossible grace just a few meters in front of her. Tall, lean, and undeniably human. His eyes met hers, calm yet intense, radiating an unsettling confidence. His clothes were rugged but functional, and he carried no visible weapon. For a moment, neither moved. Time seemed to stretch as they sized each other up. Zalara's instincts urged her to attack, but something held her back. This was no ordinary encounter. This human was a living contradiction to everything she had been taught, a myth standing before her, very much real. Without warning, he lunged. Zalara met him head-on, their bodies colliding in a blur of motion. His speed and agility were astonishing, forcing her to rely on every ounce of her training. He didn't fight like a beast, he fought like a warrior, calculated and precise. The battle was fierce but brief, ending in a tense standoff. Both combatants breathed heavily, neither willing to yield. Zalara's pride burned, but a flicker of respect ignited within her. This human was no fairy tale. He was a challenge unlike any she had ever faced. And the hunt had only just begun. Both stood motionless, their breaths heavy in the humid air. Zalara's pulse pounded in her ears, but her eyes remained locked on the human. He was injured, a shallow cut tracing down his forearm, but he held himself with unshaken resolve. Her own shoulder ached from a glancing blow, a reminder that this was no ordinary adversary. The human spoke, his voice steady but edged with curiosity. "You're not from around here, are you?" Zalara didn't respond immediately, still grappling with the absurdity of this encounter. A living human, something her people dismissed as a myth, was standing before her, speaking as if this was the most natural thing in the world. "You should not exist," she finally said, her voice laced with disbelief. He gave a faint, wry smile. "Funny. We say the same about you alien types." The tension between them was palpable, but neither moved to strike again. There was an unspoken acknowledgement that brute force alone wouldn't settle this encounter. Curiosity, however reluctant, had taken hold of them both. "You are human?" Zalara asked, her voice steadier now. "Last time I checked," he replied dryly. "Name's Elias. What brings a galactic warrior like you to our little corner of nowhere?" Zalara narrowed her eyes. "You were supposed to be extinct." Elias shrugged. "Yeah, that's what they probably told you. We tend to keep a low profile these days. Had to, after the galaxy decided we were too dangerous to keep around." Her mind reeled. The implications were staggering. Humans had not only survived but adapted, evolving into something formidable enough to stay hidden from advanced civilizations. It was both impressive and unsettling. "Why reveal yourself now?" she demanded. Elias's expression darkened. "Didn't have much of a choice, did I? You came stomping through my backyard with all your fancy tech and big hunter vibes. Figured it was time we had a chat." Zalara's pride bristled at his casual tone, but she couldn't deny the truth in his words. She had underestimated this world and its inhabitants. "You fight well," she admitted grudgingly. "So do you," he said, his tone respectful. "Most people don't last 5 minutes against me. You've got some serious skills." The compliment, unexpected as it was, caught her off guard. Verith culture rarely allowed for admiration of adversaries, but something about this human's straightforward nature made her reconsider. Elias gestured to a nearby outcropping. "Look, we could keep trying to kill each other, or we could talk. I've got some questions, and I bet you do too." Zalara hesitated, torn between instinct and reason. But the hunt was no longer about domination, it had become something far more complex. "Very well," she said, lowering her weapon. They sat across from each other, the hostility between them replaced by a tentative truce. Elias spoke of humanity's near extinction, the desperate measures they had taken to survive, and their refusal to be erased from history. As he spoke, Zalara felt the foundation of her beliefs begin to shift. Humans were not mere myths or relics of the past. They were survivors, adaptable and indomitable. And in Elias, she saw a reflection of her own pride and determination. For the first time in her life, Zalara understood that strength came in many forms. And perhaps, just perhaps, there was something to be learned from this unlikely adversary. The ground trembled beneath them as the distant roar of an approaching threat echoed through the forest. Zalara and Elias rose simultaneously, their instincts sharpening. Whatever was coming was massive and hostile. "Friend of yours?" Elias quipped, his voice tight with focus. "Hardly," Zalara replied, gripping her spear tightly. "Stay close if you wish to live." Elias smirked. "Funny, I was about to say the same to you." They moved swiftly, weaving through the dense foliage as the roar grew louder. The air vibrated with tension, and Zalara's scanners flickered with erratic energy signatures. Whatever this creature was, it defied conventional analysis. The beast burst into view, a towering mass of muscle, chitin, and rage. Its multi-jointed legs crushed trees beneath its weight, and bioluminescent eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. It let out a guttural screech that reverberated through the forest. Zalara didn't hesitate. She charged, her spear crackling with plasma energy as she aimed for the creature's vulnerable joints. Elias was right beside her, moving with uncanny speed and precision. He hurled a makeshift explosive that detonated near the creature's flank, staggering it momentarily. Their coordination was seamless, an unspoken understanding guiding their movements. Zalara's brute strength and advanced weaponry complemented Elias's resourcefulness and adaptability. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with. The creature lashed out, its claws slicing through the air. Zalara ducked and retaliated with a powerful thrust, piercing one of its legs. The beast howled in pain but remained relentless. "Any bright ideas?" she shouted over the chaos. "Yeah, hit it harder," Elias shot back, a grin flashing across his face despite the danger. Zalara couldn't help but smirk. He was audacious, reckless even, but undeniably effective. As the battle raged on, Elias spotted a cluster of unstable energy crystals embedded in the ground nearby. "We need to lure it over there," he called out. Understanding his plan immediately, Zalara nodded. "On my mark." They maneuvered strategically, drawing the creature toward the crystals. The beast, blinded by rage, charged without hesitation. "Now!" Zalara commanded. Elias detonated another explosive, triggering a chain reaction. The ground erupted in a blinding flash of light and energy, consuming the creature in a violent explosion. When the dust settled, only smoldering remains were left. Breathing heavily, Zalara and Elias stood side by side, their bodies bruised but unbroken. The forest was silent once more, the threat neutralized. "Not bad," Elias said, wiping sweat from his brow. "You are insufferably smug," Zalara muttered, though there was no malice in her tone. "And you're terrifying," he grinned. "Guess that makes us even." There was a moment of quiet understanding between them. Zalara's pride had been challenged, but she no longer viewed it as a loss. Meeting Elias had shown her that strength wasn't solely about dominance, it was about resilience, adaptability, and respect. "I will tell my people about this day," Zalara said. "About you?" Elias shrugged. "Just make sure you don't make me sound too pretty. Got a reputation to maintain." She inclined her head. "Until we meet again, human." "Looking forward to it, Huntress." As they parted ways, Zalara knew her life had been irrevocably changed. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and challenges beyond imagination. And now, she carried with her a new story, a tale of an indomitable human who had crushed her pride and earned her respect.